Why are narcissists so dangerous? That's what we're talking about today at queenbeing.com. Let's get started. My name is Angie Atkinson, and on this channel I offer free daily video coaching to help you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. I like to call it toxic relationship rehab. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button and let's get going. It's really hard to explain to strangers and onlookers why it is so dangerous to be involved with a narcissist, especially when they don't physically abuse you. I mean, after all, they're not in jail. They're not, well, maybe they are, but in most cases, they're not in jail. They're not doing anything that anyone from the outside can see as a big fat deal. What's so dangerous about them, people wonder. Well, technically, you can't prove that they've broken any laws. And even though maybe they're harassing you or stalking you or directly abusing you, you might have a hard time proving it to anybody. Being a narcissist, being someone who is probably quite familiar with bullying people, they know how to cover up their mistakes. And unfortunately, they usually succeed in this. Now, here's the interesting factor here that maybe some people don't think about. And that is that quite often, the impulsive nature of a narcissist will get the better of them, and they will find themselves in more trouble than they know what to do with. Today we're going to go over a few tactics that narcissists use to abuse you, things that make them dangerous, things that they do that kind of fly under the radar for your average Joe. And the benefit of this video to you is not only to see what you have been through is not as you focused as people seem to want to believe and want to convince you that it is, but also to help other people understand. So if you ever need to explain to someone, this is what I'm dealing with, show them this video. One of the first reasons narcissists are so dangerous is because they're very good at employing flying monkeys into every situation. So what's a flying monkey? Well, it's a person who serves a purpose to the narcissist. It's a person who may or may not be willingly participating, but essentially what the narcissist does is they explain to the flying monkey that you have caused them pain, or that they're worried about you, or that something has changed and now they need to help you do better. And then the flying monkey comes to you and either offers advice or suggestions or tips, or plain old tells you what you should be doing differently. And if they don't do that, then they might come on acting like everything's so nice and wonderful, like they might, let's say it's a mother-in-law flying monkey. Maybe she brings over a big bag of groceries for your house and says, here you go. I heard you aren't buying food for my grandson, or whatever, right? It's that kind of thing. So even though she's doing something that appears to be nice, she's also throwing in that little dig there. And you can't be mad at her for buying food, right? And you can't turn the food away if you need the money or you need the food. But what has happened is that she has, instead of saying, I understand that my son isn't paying child support to you like he's supposed to, so I'm bringing over these groceries to fill in for him, she's saying, I know you're not feeding my grandchild, so here you go. See? Some people call this bullying by proxy. Interesting, right? So instead of directly attacking you, they get those flying monkeys together and they come after you. And that example that I gave is just one of many, many, many examples. So real quick, if you've been through this, hit the comments below and let us know what you experienced as someone who was abused through the flying monkey tactic. This might help another survivor to learn that they're not alone after all. The reason the flying monkey tactic works is because there are so many different people involved with it that it's really, really difficult to put a pinpoint on it. Plus, if you think about it, if you have 87 people over here saying you're crazy or saying there are bad things happening in your life, and the narcissist is involved with that group of 87 people, and you're just standing over here by yourself going, I don't know what they're talking about, who do you think people are going to think is crazy? Another reason narcissists are dangerous, they ruin your friendships. Even people you were friends with well before you met the narcissist can often be blown away by the narcissist. I can't tell you how often I have people who come to me and say, listen, this narcissist is taking my own family away from me. Listen, this narcissist has taken my best friend since high school away from me, my best friend since childhood. You have to expect a certain amount of pain when you're dealing with a narcissist, and they're going to dig in. They're going to get you in every single place they can. They're going to push you to the point that you are in pain and to do that, they will go into your friendships, into your family, into everything that matters to you. If you have couple friends, or even like I said, if they were your friends first and then they became couple friends, well, what a narcissist will do is they will get in the middle of those friendships. So they will, for example, they'll play this game with everybody. Well, if you're not on my side, you're on the bad side, and they make people feel like they need to be loyal to them even when they don't really deserve the loyalty. Does that make any sense? If you grew up with a narcissist, you know what I'm talking about. How many of you have been in a situation where your narcissistic parent told you they didn't like somebody you were with and you broke up with them immediately so as to avoid the trouble? Or maybe you held on and it got worse and worse and worse until you finally just gave up and broke up with that person. Let me know. After you've been with a narcissist, you often find yourself feeling very lonely, feeling like you don't have anybody on your side. And part of that is simply because the narcissist has worked so hard to isolate you. And then like some of the people I talk to, they're in small towns, small groups of people, and they don't know anybody because there aren't other people to know. And the narcissist has essentially turned entire towns against them. It's a really dangerous situation to be alone in the world. And so this is another reason that narcissists are dangerous. Because the narcissist's self-esteem is very brittle, eggshell kind of brittle, you often find yourself trying to boost their self-esteem during your relationship. I don't know about you, but literally every single person I've ever dated, I've had some ability to push their self-esteem up a notch or two. And as I've done that, often it causes my own self-esteem to be pushed down a notch or two because they enjoy it so much that when they're toxic, they often push back in the other direction. They're like, oh, they would get to this place where they would be so good on their self-esteem that they might think, oh, I could do better than Ange. As if. But seriously, that really happened. The fact is that narcissists don't move back and forth on a normal continuum of self-esteem like your average Joe does. In fact, what they do is they base their self-esteem entirely on how people around them are reacting to them or behaving around them about them. They pretty much stay up until they fall straight down. When they fall straight down, instead of standing up and pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps, they grab you by the waistband and start pulling you down, and then they stand on your head to stand back up. Does that make any sense to you? Does that feel familiar to you in your relationship? Because on the surface, they might seem like they're so confident and secure in themselves and everything, but really underneath that very thin surface, eggshell surface, you will find a big mess of insecurity, negativity, not even a whole person. And that's part of the reason I think they look at us like we're not whole people, even though many of us are whole people. Most of us. The narcissist will hurt people around him or her emotionally without even a second thought. And why is that? Well, this is the next reason that they are so dangerous. They have no empathy for people around them, even people they love, and often especially people they love. They have a big fear of being exposed as a nothing. So they work to project, they want to protect their own little fragile world. And in order to do that, like I said, they pull you down by your belt, they stand up on your head so they can feel better about themselves. The problem with somebody who doesn't have empathy, my friend, is that they don't care how anybody feels. And so they act on a scale of ethical morality that is unfortunate for their victims. For example, if a narcissist comes home from work and had a terrible day, they're probably going to emotionally, verbally, and maybe even physically attack you for it. And you may never even realize what the problem was, and in a normal, healthy situation, the non-narcissistic person might come home to their spouse or significant other or child or parent and say, hey, I had a really shitty day today. Can you give me a few minutes to deal with this? Or can we talk about it? Or whatever coping method they have. Whereas a narcissist would just come home and act like everything was normal and then suddenly attack you out of the blue for no particular reason because they have no empathy. Whereas if they simply gave you the opportunity to help them get through it, you would have already done that, right? You wouldn't have needed to go into all the bullshit. And then you might find out the next day, well, they had a terrible day at work and that was the problem. And then you kind of feel bad and you're like, oh, well, they just take it out on me. You don't have to be anybody's emotional dumpster, my friend. Just know that. Narcissists are dangerous because of who they are as people, because of their personality traits. All right. So one personality trait that we need to concern ourselves with is there are 4 major traits of a narcissist that will make it harder for you to be in relationship with them and make them dangerous for you. They include the following. Number 1, the narcissist's little tiny ego, like we talked about. That puts them in a position to feel desperate. They have this need to protect their very fragile ego, their self-esteem. And so they find themselves in a desperate position when it comes to dealing with their significant others. They will often find themselves doing desperate things in order to get what they want from someone, and it's sad, but it makes them dangerous. Because a desperate narcissist might cheat on you just because you didn't pay attention to them, or they might go out and steal all the money out of your bank account and go drinking because they don't like the way you looked at them that day, or that you were disappointed in them for, losing their job or whatever. That actually happened to me once. It was terrible. Number 2, they violate your boundaries because they lack a certain amount of specialness. What do I mean by that? Well, they lack the ability to feel like a unique individual. And so if they think that someone else is being too cool or unique or different, guess what? They go right over the top of the boundaries. They have no concern for your boundaries. And like I said, number 3, the lack of empathy is an issue. It makes them incapable of seeing when they hurt other people, which is why lack of empathy makes them incredibly dangerous. And finally, the last characteristic that makes a narcissist so dangerous is that they need to believe they're special. And when they believe they're special, well, that makes it easy for them to rationalize their actions. They don't have to follow the laws. They're different and better than everybody else. They don't have to follow the rules at school, at work, at home, because who are we and who are they? Who's the government to give them a rule or a law they have to follow? And I know that sounds a little bit over the top, but think about it. Narcissists do not follow rules. It's a fact. Here's the bottom line. If you're dealing with a narcissist in your life, you must be very careful. If you're dealing with a narcissist in your life, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a spouse, a boss at work, a child, there are ways that you can manage the relationship in a healthy manner. However, if you are forced to deal with that person, you're going to have to basically walk a certain kind of a tightrope, right? There's going to be a tightrope involved here. What am I talking about? In order to manage the relationship in a healthy way, you're going to have to actively manage it 24/7 forever. There's no way that you can get into a comfortable routine with a narcissist for the most part. So in order to do this, you're going to have to give them a certain amount of empathy for the pain that they're carrying around under that ugly shell they're wearing of everything is so perfect and my life is amazing. And you're going to have to understand that in some way, most narcissists are trying to protect themselves from being hurt. Maybe they were hurt in childhood. Often they were hurt in childhood and they just didn't deal with it the right way, and that's how they became narcissists. Of course, there are those narcissists who are narcissistic because they were spoiled in childhood. And what do I mean? They were overindulged by their parents and not given emotional connection. But as much empathy as you try to have for a narcissist, you have to understand they'll never have any for you. You have to protect yourself in this process, my friend, because guess what? You don't deserve this abuse. You are not the one who is crazy. You are not the one who is causing the issues here. It is the narcissist, and it is not your fault. Please keep this in mind as you move forward. Don't let your empathy, your compassion, your love for a narcissist, don't let it make you vulnerable anymore. You don't deserve it. Be strong. Know that you are loved and that you can get through this with or without that person. All right. This brings me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is, what do you think makes a narcissist dangerous? What would you add to my list? Leave your thoughts and your ideas in the comments below, and let's have a really good discussion about this, shall we? All right. That's all I've got for you right now. Thanks so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life. And hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. I'll see you soon. It's my mission to teach others what I know to be true. You really can create the life you want. Take care of your body. Take care of your soul. Nurture the real you and introduce him or her to the world. Be comfortable in your own skin and in your place in this world. Take your spot. Take it now. And the universe will take its cue from you. You feel me? If so, subscribe to my channel. Let's get it done together.